For the audience who may not be involved in combat sports, because he's here for part of the press coverage of Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, which I think is an insanity. I think Jake Paul's choice, like, what's the end game, Spence? Is it your end game?
Because I saw you guys talking about it.
I just think it's insane that he's fighting this person. I know he fought Tyson at like 220, but he usually fights at under 200, right?
In the range of 200, cruiserweight.
All right, so he's a cruiserweight, and Anthony Joshua is a legitimate heavyweight, and the people he's been fighting are not. None of them are 1/10 of what this man is as a fighter. His opponent in this fight, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I am genuinely curious, because even while I think a heavyweight has a chance in any fight, a puncher's chance, I don't think Jake Paul has anything for Anthony Joshua.
Do you respect him for taking it?
Yeah, you have to, because that's terrifying. Like that. Look, I understand that Jake Paul is ranked in cruiserweight, but there are weight classes for a reason, and this is a man that I thought was going to be the guy who knocked off Fury and Deontay Wilder, and a lot of people thought that. A lot of people thought he was going to be undisputed.
Two-time unified heavyweight champion, Olympic gold medalist in 2012. His last fight was for the title against Daniel Dubois and got knocked out. That was his last fight. So it's not like he's washed up. It's not like he's fighting bums and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a crazy thing. I get annoyed at the people who are doing like the sanctimonious thing, that this is a stain on AJ's legacy, that this is a stain on the sport of boxing, because you often hear that from people who actually don't watch boxing, don't know anything about AJ, don't know anything about the sport, and it's like, save me the sanctimony, because as you probably know, boxing has been doing fights like this for decades. In 1976, Muhammad Ali, who was the heavyweight champion of the world, went to Japan and fought a guy named Antonio Inoki in a mixed rules pro wrestling match. In 1975, after the Rumble in the Jungle, George Foreman, after losing to Ali, went to Toronto, Maple Leaf Gardens on a Saturday afternoon and fought 5 jobbers. Like, this stuff happens. And so I don't think this is...
what?
Yeah. He fought 5 people on the same day. A jobber. Do you know what a jobber is? It's pro wrestling terminology.
I thought it was guys with jobs.
No. It's like guys who are just like sort of jabroni guys. That,
Tomato can guys.
Tomato cans, jobbers, pro wrestling terminology.
I think it's a stain. I don't think it's a stain on boxing. I think it's a stain on the business of boxing, that Anthony Joshua could get more for this fight than he's ever gotten before, that Ngannou can go into boxing and make more money boxing than he can like in MMA, where he's a legitimate
big platforms
champion.
Like Netflix want big time fights. They want spectacles, right? And I feel like this is a spectacle. Did I ever think this was going to happen? Did I think this was going to happen in the year 2025? Did I think that AJ's next fight coming off the Dubois knockout at Wembley would be against Jake Paul? No. Did I think Jake Paul would pick AJ? No. The whole thing is a sort of like mind-blowing spectacle, and I can't wait. I don't know how I got this, but I have the honor of hosting the press conference.
Well, you got it because you're the best journalist anywhere to be found in combat sports. Everyone knows this. For those who do not know what your resume is, for many, many years, he has been applying a rigid journalistic, strict standard to a sport and sports that do not want it. And so you have had your tensions with Dana White and others because you insist on covering the sport in an honorable way, and that way you're a bit of a rose growing in a sewer, just insisting that there be journalistic standards. But let me play some sound for you here, since we just mentioned Ngannou and Dana White.
Nice studio.
This is on the Flagrant podcast. Listen to Dana White here talking about Ngannou, and you tell me what your thoughts are here.
Francis Ngannou is a bad guy. He's not a good guy. He plays the whole, I don't understand the language, and he tries to come off like he's a nice guy, you know what I mean? And people go, it's the language barrier probably. No, there's no language barrier with this guy. So he's going in to fight Stipe Miocic in Boston, and he knows he's going to kill Stipe. So after the press conference, we're walking down this hallway, and he comes over to me and he grabs me. His English is great. When this fight's over, they're going to book me a private plane to Paris. And I said, I laughed and said, oh yeah, he goes, I'm not joking. Okay. Stipe Miocic beats the shit out of him. That ended that whole conversation. I should have cut him that day. So then, when you're an athlete that's signed by the UFC, you get full access to the Performance Institute, and he comes up to my office, and he was pissed off that he didn't get a $50,000 bonus in his last fight, that he didn't get the bonus of the night. And I said, Francis, you didn't get it because this, that. And he's in my office and he's arguing with me. The conversation's over. I'm starting to leave. And he grabs me by my shirt and like pushes me back in my office. And I said, dude, get your hands off me. I could see in this guy's face and in his eyes and in the way he's acting who this guy really is, you know? Now he's over and he's done a deal with PFL in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure they wish they never signed him.
Ngannou has never slapped his wife in public that I know of. Dana White calling anybody a bad guy is rich, but Dana White, because he's rich, always has these problems with Randy Couture and others. Every objection that he had to Ngannou there was Ngannou wanting more money. That's how you get objections from Dana White. What are your thoughts on what you just heard there?
So, yeah, Dana has had this long-standing feud with Francis Ngannou. It's important to know. So I reached out to Francis. I haven't heard back yet regarding this. I wanted to know how real it was. I do know the timeline. The interaction that he is talking about is following his win over Alistair Overeem in, I believe off the top of my head, it was 2016 going into 2017, or either 2017 going into 2018. And that was the fight that got him a title shot against Stipe Miocic when they fought. Off the top of my head, it was UFC 220. Point is, throughout that buildup, Dana was so steadfast, and he was so energetic and so passionate about his promotion of Francis Ngannou that Stipe was actually so disrespected that when he beat Francis in their first title fight, he took the belt from Dana as he was about to wrap it around his waist and gave it to his coach, and he felt like that was the proper thing to do because this guy had disrespected him in the buildup. And so my mind goes to the place where it's like, if something happened between you guys, why did you promote him so well? And then why did you promote him multiple times? Why did you give him a title shot during the pandemic and he beat Stipe? And why did you try so hard to sign him when he was at the end of his contract? And why did you sit him for a year when he beat Cyril Gane and kept him to that exclusivity period? If you hated him so much, why did you want to be in business with this guy for 4 or 5 years later? If he was such a bad guy, why did you want to keep him around? Because he makes it seem in that interview with Andrew Schultz, he makes it seem like, I wanted to cut him after the Stipe fight, but my matchmakers told me to keep him. My question is, if he was such a crappy guy, if he was such a horrible human being, if he did the things that you are accusing him of doing, and I wasn't there, so who the hell knows, why did you want to be in business with him for 4 or 5 more years? And why were you so upset when he turned down the fight offer from the UFC as UFC champion and walked away and you took the belt away from him? Why does it bother you? It bothers him because he didn't stick around. It bothers him because he rebuffed their offer and he went on to fight Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and once in the PFL. And so since then, he has been on this campaign, this media tour to slander Francis. And I don't know why he's bringing it up all these years later, but you have to ask him.
You're in town for 24 hours for Paul Joshua, and I don't know in your service of this role if you're allowed to say just flatly what you really think of this fight, or whether you have to sell the possibility that Jake Paul can win this fight.
I don't have to sell anything. I don't work for Jake Paul. I don't work for MVP, the promotion. I'm hired by Netflix. And even, I'll be honest with you, Dan, I'll shoot with you here. Even the role that I'm in today, I feel a little uncomfortable because I think that, I can promote, I can have fun with it, but I'm not a promoter. I am not involved in the transaction here. And historically, the guy standing at the dais is the promoter, is the Bob Arum, the Dana White, the Vince McMahon, the whatever. And they kind of used me in this spot. They asked me to do it. And out of respect, I say yes. And it's a big opportunity. It's Netflix and all this stuff. So I have to sometimes answer questions from people where they're like, well, you're on the take or you're on the payroll. I don't get paid anything. In fact, I've turned down multiple things from promoters because I don't want that conflict of interest. So I feel like it's important to say that. That being said, I think this is I think if Jake Paul beats Anthony Joshua, I think it's one of the biggest upsets in the history of boxing. The odds wouldn't suggest that, but are you telling me that Jake Paul was more accomplished than Buster Douglas? He wasn't. And I'm not going to get into what's the bigger upset, but this is a Herculean task on his hands. Anthony Joshua is still a very, very good fighter. His last fight was for the belt, and there is nothing in Jake Paul's resume that would suggest that he can knock him out or beat him, but he's going to go for it. And I have a lot of respect for him, for picking this opponent because he could have picked anyone.
This is Jake Paul trying to earn our respect, no?
I just think the reason that I think it's crazy is because of the leap between what he's been fighting and this. Like, he has to earn your respect with this, even if he gets knocked out in the first round, because you shouldn't step in with this person.
But here's the risk. There's so many risks here. The risk is if he gets knocked down in the first round, the whole thing comes crumbling down. Like the whole Jake Paul experience, there's going to be no demand to see him continue
But
to
if he
fight.
gets into the fourth round and you're like, this is closer than I thought.
But
because he's lost before, and I don't think
he lost a close decision to Tommy Fury in Saudi Arabia on a Sunday night. No one even remembers it. And since then, he's got some great wins. He hasn't been like knocked the F out. And so I think that that's what everyone is dying to see. And I think that the whole thing comes crumbling down. Here's the problem. If the fight goes past the second round, Francis lost to Jake in the second. Excuse me, Francis lost to Anthony Joshua in the second round and got absolutely obliterated. Right? I mean, it was shocking. Francis had never been rocked, knocked down, or knocked out.
But that was shocking to you because it wasn't shocking.
It was shocking to me.
The only reason it's not shocking to me is because, look, Ngannou's great for a striker. He's got a good chin, and he doesn't get.
He had just gone the distance with Tyson Fury and knocked him down. And so I didn't think that AJ would do that to him, but he took that task very, very seriously. And so the issues that they're facing is, if Jake somehow survives and goes the distance, everyone's going to be like, the fix was in. And if AJ somehow makes it to the seventh and can't knock him out until the seventh or eighth, everyone's going to be like, AJ held him up. And so and if Jake somehow pulls off the great upset, everyone's going to the fix is it. I feel like he's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't here. The only result that I feel like the public is going to be okay with is an Anthony Joshua demolition of Jake Paul in a round or two. And that's a tough spot to be in. And so I hope it's competitive. I hope it's close. I hope it's fun. I hope it's a war. But I honestly, in my heart of hearts, have no idea what to expect here because it's just so off the wall crazy.
Ariel, but that's what the money's for, right? The money, the $70 million is, thank you, Mike, is for, hey, yeah, you're going to be kind of lose-lose situation if you take him to the eighth round or if you're knocking him out in the fourth, like whatever it is, that's what the money's for. But also, this is kind of the end game for Jake Paul. There's nobody higher that he can go to and be like, who else am I going to fight? He already called out Ngannou before the AJ thing. Now it's AJ. Who's better right now to fight Jake Paul? Like, what's the next level?
I mean, he had a deal with Canelo Alvarez. They were this close. Is Canelo better than AJ in the pound-for-pound rankings?
Sure.
Some would suggest. Certainly, before the Terrence Crawford fight, and this fight was supposed to happen in May, there's always someone, and Jake doesn't really play with the same deck of cards as everyone else. Remember, he was supposed to fight Tank Davis this past Friday. That was the original fight. I'm infinitely more interested in this fight than the Tank fight.
Oh, but the Tank. So the part that I find interesting about the what he chose to do with what I believe will be the punctuation of this part of the story. I thought he was going to lose to Tank, and Tank is 134 pounds. What's Joshua going to fight at? They haven't done the weigh-in yet. He's going to fight at 250?
They said he can't weigh above 245.
Okay.
The last time he weighed in that region was 2022, his rematch against Alexander Usyk. The last time he weighed in against Dubois was 252. So it's not a huge drop, but there is some sort of limitation. He can't go in there, at 265.
But I thought Tank was the best fighter.
Skill-wise.
Is the best fighter he was going to fight, skill-wise, and now he's doing that 100 pounds heavier.
Yeah.